Good day everyone! My name is Rea Ann A, Monton, and for today's video, I am going to report or continue the discussion of Jessa Pantillo about the portfolio assessment methods. From the first video, she already discussed about the definition of portfolio assessment methods, and also she discussed about the features and principles of portfolio assessment. And the third one that she discussed is that the purposes of portfolio assessment, and the last one that she discussed is that the essential elements of portfolios. So now I will discuss the different topics or the continuation of the topics of portfolio assessment methods, which are first, I will discuss the stages in implementing portfolio assessment. The second one that I will report is the types of portfolio, and the third one that I will discuss is that assessing and evaluating portfolio assessment. And the last one that I will discuss is that the implications of portfolios on some elements of social sciences. But before that, let us recall what is portfolio. So what is portfolio all about, guys? Okay, so portfolio is a purposeful collection of student work that exhibits the student's efforts, progress, and achievement in one or more areas. It could be a collection of many different student performances, or can be single performance by different students. The greatest value of portfolios is that in building them, students become active participants in the learning process and its assessment. So, portfolio assessment is one of the several authentic and non-traditional assessment techniques in education. So, what are those non-traditional assessment? So unsa ditong traditional? So ang katong traditional is all about katong multiple choice assessment, which is it is an objective. Kani siyang portfolio is a subjective assessment which the students will reflect on the different activities that they compile or they collect. So that is portfolio all about. So now we will discuss about the stages of portfolio assessment implementation, which are separated in different categories. Okay, so first, or the stage 1, identify teaching goals to assess through portfolio. So what is this all about? Okay, in order to assess learners through the portfolio, you must first determine your instructional goals. In order to keep and attain a clear aim in teaching, you must have one. And those objectives will act as a framework for grading your pupils' work. It is very important at this stage to be very clear about what the teacher hopes to achieve in teaching. These goals will guide the selection and assessment of students' work for the portfolio. So, kanang stage 1 is all about identifying what is the teaching goal or the instructional goals that the teacher want to achieve for the students. Okay, so it has organizing portfolio assessment. And organizing portfolio assessment is to establish the teaching goals. Next is to be clear about the teacher's hopes to achieve in teaching. And the last one, guide the selection and assessments of the students. Okay, so the next stage, or the stage 2, introducing the idea of portfolio assessment to your class. So, portfolio assessment is a new thing for many students who are used to traditional testing, right? Do you agree? Okay. So, for this reason, it is important for the teacher to introduce or explain the concept of portfolio evaluation to the class. Even if some learners have already formed opinions regarding portfolios, you can still explain it to them by defining the term portfolio. So, kani siya, kung sa stage 1, the teacher will identify its their teaching goal or instructional goals. Stage 2, you will introduce what is portfolio all about, or what is the concept of portfolio you want the students to create. So there are lots of students already know what is the definition of portfolio, diba? So you can have the activity that you can give them the time to share what is their knowledge what is their knowledge about portfolio, or what is their knowledge about the concept of portfolio. So by that you could also the students will engage of sharing their ideas about what is portfolio. So from those students that wala kabaw about portfolio, they can also learn from their classmates ideas or opinions about what is portfolio. So again, the stage 2 is all about introducing the concept of portfolio, or what is portfolio all about, in order for the students to know what is portfolio. Okay, so we are down to the third stage, which is the specification of portfolio content. So what is this all about? Okay, so in this stage, it must indicate what the portfolio's content will be. There are several different categories that you should consider, just like the personal information, values, personal goals, and history. And also, we must describe the themes and the information they must include in relation to the subject. You must also indicate how each entry will be evaluated. So in this stage, how could it be? So you need to specify how much to be included in the portfolio, both the core and the options. So what does this mean? What does it mean? So it is important to include options, as this enables self-expression and independence. So you need to specify for each entry how it will be assessed, or the teacher will specify for each entry how it will be assessed. Also, in this stage, the portfolio entries can take many forms. It could be in written, audio, it could be video recorded. Next is material items, or different material resources, artifacts, and also it could be drawing, and many more. So it's up to you what will you use, what kind of form you will use. So kani siya stage 3. So kung sa stage 1, the teacher introduces its teaching goals or the instructional goals. Then sa stage 2, it introduces what is the concept. What is the concept of portfolio all about, or what is portfolio? So kasi stage 3, it specify what is the content, what is unsay unod sa kada imong portfolio, unsay sud. For example, ang sud sa portfolio is that dira ang reflection, different activities, quizzes, and many more. So kasi siya, as a teacher, you need to specify, you need to limit. Like, kung imo siyang specify, you also need to limit what are the things that must be included, di ba? Ikaw ang nagdumala, ikaw nagpabuhat ana nga portfolio. So you need to give them an instruction about unsa ang ilahang isud anang portfolio. Okay, so that is the third stage. Again, the third stage is the specification of portfolio content. Now, we are down to stage 4, which is giving clear and detailed guidelines for portfolio presentation, or deliver concise instructions on how to present your portfolio. So, the student's ability to offer evidence will be limited by these constraints. Why? Because there is a tendency for students to present as many evidence of learning as they can when left on their own. So the teacher must therefore set clear guidelines and detailed information on how the portfolios will be presented. So always keep in mind that when left to their own devices, students have a desire to offer as many evidences as they can. So in this stage, you need to present as many evidence of learning as the students left on their own. So you need so in this stage, you always remember that it has a limit, because the students present as many evidences of learning as the students left on their own. Also in this stage, you need to explain the need for first, clear and attractive presentation. Next is dated drafts. Third is that attach reflections or comment cards. So from what I have experienced in making portfolio when I was in grade 12, the teacher gives us the instruction, which is unsa pagkahanay sa kanang unsay giunsa giunsa kanang ang hanay bitaw, unsay hanay sa kanang portfolio. Unsay hanay sulod sa portfolio. So first, she gives us the instruction of the cover before opening unsay sulod sa portfolio. Gi-instructionan man niya nga mag-create me og kanang creative bitaw nga cover nga ma-wow siya. So next is that kanang inigabli, gi-instruction man niya nga before instruction man niya kana so first is that the acknowledgement, pasasalamat sa mga tao nga among ginahan pasalamatan ng parents, God, friends, and many more. So next that she also instructed us to create a table of contents. So kaya siyang table of contents is that dila nasud ang different activities nga kanang giyon sa namang paghanay. So first is that sa table of contents is that kanang katong quizzes namo. Quizzes gilahi ito ang quizzes activity. So ang makita after ito sa table of contents is that the quizzes. Next is that the activities. Gipa-compile mo the different activities which is katong first nga activity na gibuhat. Next is that kanang after activities is that nato siya reflection. Reflection after sa activities, different activities, na siya reflection. After ato sa reflection is that after ato sa reflection is that na ato siya kanang another activities about messages kay kato ipabuhat mo ato kanang ipabuhat mo mga letter bitaw ato nga among i-compile sa among portfolio which is antod karon na pa nako an mabasa pa sa to siya. So mao to siya the teacher gives us the guidelines unsa ang dapat isod sa portfolio, unsa paghanay para uniform bitaw tanan, inigtan-aw niya, inigpakli niya sa mga portfolio sa different student sa different students is kana makita niya kaya siya is ni follow dun sa instruction kung unsa ang sunod, unsa ang first nga ibutang o unsa ang last nga magbutang. So mo to siya ang stage 4, it is giving clear and detailed guidelines for portfolio presentation. Before I forgot day guys is that kana mo na siya ang example sa amo ang gipahimo mi og portfolio. So first this is so this is the portfolio and disaster readiness and risk reduction. So kali siya is that katong cover nga akong giingon before kanang gipakita ang sulod, gipahimo mi og cover. Gisod na siya folder but gigamit lang na akong folder. So kali siya the cover. Next is that the table of contents. So kali siya mo din siya ang first day guys ang table of contents before the acknowledgement. So dili nasud na ang mga nakahanay nga ipambutang sa portfolio. So first is the dedication. Kuan may dedicate. Asa nila mo gi-dedicate ang paghimo sa portfolio. Next is that acknowledgement. Pasasalamat sa mga taong aming minamahal. Charot. Next is that the prayer. Ipahimo mi og prayer kanang own prayer. Yes. Yes, ipahimo mi og own prayer. Next is that kani siya guys. Mao ni siya ang first namong gibuhat. Paper plane. So kani siyang paper plane is that naani siya ipahimo mi og formal ano bitong papel nga aeroplano which is nadili na sud ang mga letters mga letters gikan sa mga classmates like messages nila. So next is the daghan pa na siya is paper namo, so on and so forth, the activity quizzes, activities, niya siya mga activities, ibahin mo sa activities niya. Kaya siya, then the reflection. So it is important jud nga in portfolio na jud siya reflection because in this reflection it is a kind of a narrative report or I don't know. You would reflect on you would reflect on how you create this kind of portfolio. So yeah, this is the reflection. So another one, kung ko siya duha ka gipabuhat mo another table of contents for the midterm exam. Kato siya is for basta duha mi gipabuhat, I forgot kung saan siya nga gipabuhat mi duha ka buok. Okay, so kaya siya is that gipabuhat mi for midterm test paper, so semi-final test paper. Kaya siya, so on and so forth. Kaya siya kinalaksi na lang siya. Medyo dugay-dugay naman pila to. So mo to siya reflection, another reflection. So kaya siya guys, ang video na akong makalimtan is that the different so ang video na akong makalimtan guys is the messages nagbubuhat na lang siya guys. Ako mo na siya gisod ko ng box. So anyways, these are the messages coming from our classmates, which is ipahimo mi amos silang gitagalog sticky notes. I mean, kami tanan naghatag og sticky notes sa mga classmates. Then they will write their messages about us, about how they their expression, their impression, their kanang katong mga memories, moments namo. So kali siya, yeah. So, kanina pa siya, daghan pa niya siya. So, ako, basahon din ako sila, masahay, para pa-motivate. Motivate for who I am. So, nato siya yung mga positive messages, which is, ang siya pang motivation. So, that, kaya siya, again, this is one of the example ng pagbuhat ni of portfolio. Okay, so the next stage, or the stage 5, is that informing key school officials, parents, and other stakeholders. So in this stage, teachers must think about the other aspect of this procedure. Do not attempt to use the portfolio assessment method without notifying your department head, dean, or principal, because this will serve principal. Because kaya siya nga stage, or kaya siya stage, you need to inform because this will serve as the precaution in case students will later complain about your new assessment procedure. So teachers also need to notify the other school administrators as well as the parents because this is a precondition. So, kaya siya, again, this stage 5, that you need to make sure that the school principal is aware of your new assessment procedures. It is also a good idea to inform parents about the portfolio assessment and allow them to comment on the work of the students. So again, the stage 1 is to identify the teaching goals or instruction of the teacher. Next, stage 2 is to introduce what is the concept or portfolio, or what is portfolio all about. The third stage is that specification of content, portfolio content. So you need to specify unsa ang content sa imong portfolio all about. So stage 4 is that you need to give clear and detailed guidelines about your portfolio presentation, just like what I have kanang ipakita sa inyo ganiha. Those are instructions na those are different just like what I gipakita sa inyo ato nga kato siyang example nga gipabuhat mi is that gi-instruct mi ato sa among teacher kung saan dapat magkasunod-sunod sa portfolio. So kaya siyang stage 5 is that you need to inform the key school officials, parents, and other stakeholders in order for them to know what is the purpose of your portfolio all about. So that is the stage 5. And finally, we are down to stage 6, which is the development of the portfolio. So this is where the students do their task, gather information, and search substantial information about the subject. So in this stage, support and encouragement are required by both teacher and students at this stage. So students and teachers must work together to in developing the portfolio, as this is a tool that can assist teachers and students organize their schoolwork. It can definitely help pupils observe their learning process because they can see and handle those activities. So in this stage, you need to devote class time to student-teacher conferences, to practice reflection and self-assessment, and to portfolio preparation. Next, giving guiding feedback. Next is ownership, to ensure that the portfolio represents the students' own work. Dili ta sinpon gikan sa other people. So it must be their own work. So most importantly, a portfolio is useful for documenting students' overall learning and may result in mastery of learning. So that is the stages of portfolio, or that is the stages in implementing portfolio assessment. So now, let's proceed to the types of portfolio. So there are 3 types of portfolio, and these types of portfolios differ from each other depending on the purposes or objectives set for the overall classroom assessment program. So as a rule, portfolio assessment is used where traditional testing is inadequate to measure desired skills and competencies. So Mao ni siya akong palailan ninyo. So these are the 3 types of portfolio. So the first type of portfolio is the documentation portfolios. So kaya siya nga type of portfolio. So this type of portfolio, it involves collection of work over time showing growth and improvement reflecting students' learning or identified outcomes. So what does it mean? So as the name implies, this approach or this type of learning, it involves a collection of work over time, showing, again, the word showing growth and improvement reflecting students' learning of identified outcomes. So kaya siya, nga type of portfolio is commonly called as growth portfolio. So, nga nagitawag siya growth portfolio, it is because it includes all the works of the students over time that show their growth and improvement. So, the collection becomes meaningful when specific items are selected out to focus on particular educational experiences or goals. And also, why it is a growth portfolio? Because it indicates students' progress and weaknesses from one learning to another, or it includes the best output or the weakest work of the student. The best and the weakest. So, kasi siyang timailan nimo is that the documentation, it talks about the growth of the students. So, it can include everything from brainstorming activities to drafts to finished products. So, again, that is the first type of portfolio, which is documentation portfolio. So, documentation portfolio, ano siya? It is the growth portfolio, which indicates the progress or the progress of the students on how they grow or improve throughout the time. Okay, so we are down to the second type of portfolio, and this is process portfolio. So in contrast, in the first type of portfolio, it demonstrates all facets or phases of the learning process. So as such, these portfolios contain an extensive number of reflective journal, think logs, and other related forms of metacognitive processing. So kaya siya, type of portfolio, you could see this is where you see the mastery of the subject of the students. So it is useful in documenting students' overall learning process. So can show how students integrate specific knowledge or skills and progress towards basic and advanced mastery. So katong first type, which is the documentation portfolio, it talks about the growth of portfolio. It just indicate the progress or the improvement of these students. So kato siya ang documentation, like you document it, the weaknesses and the best. It only just indicate the weaknesses and the weak or the best outcome, the weak and the best activities of the students. While in this process, it talks about the overall learning process. It indicates the mastery of the subject of the students. So mato siya kalaian nilang duha. So again, the first one is the documentation portfolio, and the second one is the process portfolio. And now we are down to the third type of portfolio. And this is the showcase portfolio. So what is showcase portfolio all about? So from the word itself, it includes or only shows the best of the students' outputs and products. So usually finished products to display the best he or she accomplished in a given period. So those best works of the students has been made through the combination of students and teachers selection. So in this type of portfolio, it only showcase the best of students' outputs and products. As such, this type of portfolio is best used for summative evaluation of students' mastery of key curriculum outcomes. So it only completed work should be included. Okay, so in this type of portfolio, only completed work should be included. Next is purposeful collection of limited amount of students' work. May contain art projects, essays, stories, poetry, or research papers. And the last one, it reflects the curriculum goals of the learning areas. So what does it mean? So it should include written analysis and reflections by the students upon the decision-making process used to determine which works are included. So again, showcase portfolio, it only includes the best output or the best product that the students make. Okay, so nasabtan na bang showcase? From the word showcase, you show what is the best among the outputs of the students. So okay, the difference between the types of portfolio is that first, the documentation portfolio, it includes the best and the weak output. It shows the progress, the growth, or the improvement of the students. The second type is that the process portfolio, it includes the overall learning process, which it includes the best, the weak output, and other different learning process through making the portfolio. And the showcase portfolios, it talks about only showcasing what is the best output that the students made. So mo to siya ang differences of the three types of portfolio. Again, what is the different types of portfolio? So first first type is the documentation portfolio. Next is the process portfolio. And the last one is that showcase portfolio. Okay, so we are down to the third topic, which is assessing and evaluating portfolio assessment. So, according to Paulson and Mayer 1991, portfolios offer a way of assessing student learning that is different from the traditional methods. So, this means that portfolio assessment provides the teacher and students an opportunity to observe students in a broader context. This means that taking a risk in developing creative solution and learning to make judgments about their own performances. So that is according to Paulson and Mayer 1991. So this is they mean that it could be a self-reflective assessment, like the students will reflect to themselves what are the things inside that portfolio. Yeah. Okay, so how to assess portfolios DI? So first, it can be done by either teachers or students or both. Next, conversations about student work enhances student learning and moves students forward. And next is that it can be a three-way conferences. So what is this three-way conferences means? So this means that it can be teacher to student. It can the second one, it could be the teacher to student to parent. The third one, it could be student to student. So how could we evaluate? How and when evaluation is addressed is it varies according to its purpose. Okay, so consider evaluation versus grading. So how could we evaluate portfolio? So first, let us define what is the difference between these two. So evaluation, it refers to the act of making a judgment about something. You evaluate, you judge about that particular thing. So grading takes that process one step further by assigning a grade to that judgment. So, something about the difference between these two. So, evaluation, it talks about judging. Grading, it talks about scoring or giving score of that particular activity. So, what to grade? So, in this portfolio, unsaon man sa teacher pag-grade. So, okay. So, the teacher will first is they will grade it to nothing. So, unsa man nothing? How could this kind of grading nga na interman? So nothing. So some teachers choose not to grade the portfolio because they have already assigned grades to the contents selected for inclusion. So what does it mean? So some teachers use only portfolio for compilation. They don't grade it because some of the things na gibutan na dito sa portfolio is already graded. For example, the activities, it is already graded. The quizzes, summative, so that's it. So mo to siya, it is one of the kinds of in grading portfolio. The teachers will not so the first one, the teachers will not grade the portfolio because they just use this as compilation. So that is the meaning of nothing. So the next one, the metacognitive and organizational element. So it is a process skills like reflection, goal setting, self-assessment, made part of the standard. So kaya siya, gi-grade siya through how the students reflect or kanang katong ipahimo sa reflection about kanang sa ilang portfolio naman, just like katong ipakita sa inyo katong ipahimo may portfolio na siya reflection. So how does portfolio reflect it to us? Next is that the third one is completion. Some portfolios are graded simply on whether or not the portfolio was completed. So this means that from the word itself, completion. So the teachers graded it on how the student completed the compilation of different activities of how they collected. So kung ilahat to siyang na-complete ang ipa-compile, so grade to siya through that by completion, kung sa instruction is gipa-compile mo with different quizzes, activities, and so on and so forth. So that is one of the meaning ani siyang completion, by how students completed your instruction in compiling those activities and quizzes into your portfolio. So next is everything. So everything. Other teachers evaluate the entire package, the selected samples of student work, as well as the reflection, organization, and presentation of the portfolio. So what the teacher grade also through the whole package. For example, how student create the cover. So kaya siya gi-grade na siya. Next is how student do the portfolio creatively, like katong sud niya is dagan siya design and so on, how they present the different the inner part of the portfolio and the outside part of the portfolio. So gi-grade na siya individually. So first is the cover, gigrade sa inner part. So how the students reflect, gigrade siya. So how students compile the different quizzes, gigrade siya. So how organized does the students compile the different activities and quizzes, gigrade siya. So that is the meaning of everything. The full package, gigrade siya sa teacher. So the entire package itself. So again, the how to grade a portfolio. First is the nothing. Next is the metacognitive and organizational elements. And the third one, completion. And the fourth one is everything. So another is what are the assessment tools. So now let's proceed to the assessment tools. So what are the tools used in assessing portfolio? So first, self or peer assessment with rating skills, just like it is a kind of a rubric. So siya. So next is checklist with criteria such as clear presentation, relevant vocabulary, correct spelling or pronunciation depending on the task. So kaya siya is checklist with criteria. It is a kind of a rubric na siya different indication. Kung for example, kaya siya grade na siya into 8 to 10, na siya indication na need ba siya or dili. So kaya siya, mag-ano na siya 0 to 1, dili siya need. So 5 to 10 need siya, concise kayo or organize kayo ang paghimo. So, mga na siya ang meaning sa checklist with criteria. Next is teacher or peer observation. So, this is one of the tools of assessing portfolio. Next is learning log. The other one is answer key. And the last one is guided reflection on the task. So, these are the tools in assessing portfolio. Okay, so di ba nagtakod ko ganiha about criteria? So, we are down to how to rate a criteria in portfolio. So, these are the following on rating a criteria in portfolio. First is thoughtfulness. So thoughtfulness, this shows the evidence of students' monitoring of their own comprehension, metacognitive reflection, and productive habits of mind. So kato siya, di ba? In portfolio, you plan how to create your portfolio, di ba? So how thoughtful are you in planning your portfolio? Is it accordingly to what the teacher instruct you? Or kana giunsa nimo pagplano, like for example, how you plan to design it, how you plan your portfolio to be creative. So this kind of criteria is napagawas nimo imong bitong critical thinking. You are thinking outside the box of what would be the best outcome of your portfolio. So next is growth and development in relation to key curriculum expectancies and indicators. So this means or this shows if the work of students really chives to the subjects and to what was really want to be achieved. So this criteria, it talks about the the growth and development of the students are kanang na-achieve. For example, if the student really chives to the subject, if the gi-connect ba nila sa goal sa teacher, sa instructional goal sa teacher, kung i-connect ba nila ang ilang paghimo sa portfolio to the subject. So this criteria is it talks about relating the subjects. Your portfolio, it talks about the portfolio you create is relate ba sa subject, and is it ma-achieve ba siya sa instructional goal sa teacher. So that's it. So that is the second criteria in rating portfolio. So next is understanding and application of key processes. So kaya siyang understanding, this is the reflection of the students and how they internalize the portfolio processes. So kaya siya unsa ilahang pag-comprehend in processing making their portfolio. So how they apply it, how ilabit ang self-reflection kung giunsa nila pagbuhat ang ilang portfolio, like kada ba siya is lisod, kada ba siya is sayon dra ilang pagbuhat, like ilang na-reflect sa ilaha ilabang nasabtan ang portfolio all about what are the things that must be considered in portfolio. So like it is a reflection, self-reflection of students on how the portfolio must be how the portfolio processes is achieved, di ba? How they internalize the process of making the portfolio. So, mo na siya ang ika-tulo nga criteria. So, next is completeness, correctness, and appropriateness of products and processes presented in the portfolio. It is said that the portfolio must have its complete elements for it may be useful and valid. So, di ba, as I have said earlier, that the teachers instruct you to what are the things that must be considered in creating portfolio. So, what are the elements? What are the things that must put there, and what are the things that must not. So, di ba na may clear guidelines. For example, sa table of contents, ki-instruct sa imong teacher na dapat mag-una ang dedication, mag-una ang acknowledgement, sunod katong mga quizzes, sunod kanang test paper nimo sa imong sa imong examination, sa imong exam, or like quarterly test exam. So next is mga activities and reflection, and the reflection ang last one. So kana siya is kanang imo ba siya kana siya type of criteria is like complete ba nimo, imo bang na-compile tanan ang gi-instruct sa imo nga dapat nimo ibutang sa portfolio. So completeness, completeness kanang kompleto ba siya ang sa gi-instruct sa imo sa teacher. So next is correctness. Di ba sa instructions sa imong teacher is dapat uniform siya, dapat naka-follow unsay first, unsay second, unsay last. So kana siya is kung sakto ba imong pag-follow sa gi-instruct sa imong teacher. Appropriateness. So appropriateness in this criteria, it talks about how clean or organized your portfolio. Like diba, how organized your portfolio, how clean, how the designs are exactly suited in your portfolio. Like dili siya nagdaghan na lang og design ba nga natukuban na ang mga important things nga dapat makita sa teacher. So the appropriateness is like the cleanliness, how organized your portfolio how your portfolio and in organizing the different contents of your portfolio. So this is one of the criteria of rating: the completeness, correctness, and appropriateness of products and processes presented in the portfolio. So next criteria in rating portfolio is the diversity of entries. So this includes on how the students present information and how they support their output. Example, by using multiple formats to demonstrate achievement. For example, use of multiple formats to demonstrate achievement of designated performance standards. So, kaya siyang diversity of entries. From the word diversity, you diverse, for example, you present information about your, right information about your portfolios, and also you diverse it, you connect it to multiple formats in order for achieve to have a better output. So, ano siya ang criteria? Diversing of different entries, different information that must considered in creating portfolio. So, kaya po siyang kind of criteria is that it has formative and summative. So, what is this all about? So, if we talk about formative, it talks about which means throughout the instructional time period. Instructional time period. While summative, it means as part of cumulative project, activity, or related assessment to determine the extent to which identified curricular expectancies, indicators, and standards has been achieved. So, kaya diversity of entries, it must. So, kaya siyang criteria, it must be formative. So, formative, it is the instructional time period is right, is correct. It also this type of criteria, it must be summative, which it determine or what are the indicators you must put in order for them to read the exact information na ilang bitong i-based in creating their portfolio. So these are the criteria of rating portfolio. First is thoughtfulness. The second one is growth and development in relationship to key curriculum expectancies and indicators. The third one, understanding and application of key processes. The fourth one is completeness, correctness, and appropriateness of products and processes presented in the portfolio. And the fifth one is diversity of entries. So these are the criteria and rating portfolio that you must consider, and that the students must know, and the teacher must consider in evaluating, in grading or evaluating a portfolio. So as you can see in the presentation, there are different sample of rating scale for cover letter. So one of the example is in the PPT, which is this is the things that must considered in creating scale for portfolio. So this one, the grade 1 to 3, 4 to 7, 8 to 10. So description is like indicators on how to grade a portfolio. So ano siya? I will not read it because you could just gonna read it to in yourself in order for you to comprehend. So this is only an example. So there are many examples. These are other examples. Yes. So these are examples, and this one is the example. So these are the example of rating scale, or these are examples of a scale in scale or criteria in rating a portfolio. Okay, so one of the more significant aspects of portfolio assessment is its collaborative approach. Ano sa ito? Collaborative approach. Ano sa may meaning ang collaborative approach? So collaborative approach is in which students and teachers work together to identify especially to significant or important artifacts and processes to be captured in the portfolio. So, unsa ganun yung collaborative approach from the word itself, gikulab ang student and teacher in order to achieve or in order to identify the significant or the important information or processes in creating a portfolio, in order for them to capture the important information in creating a portfolio. So students and teacher work together in this collaborative approach in order to identify significant or important artifacts and processes to be captured in a portfolio, just like what I have said. Next is to determine grades or scores to be assigned. Next, for grading and scoring, rubrics, rules, and scoring keys can be designed for a variety of portfolio components. Letter grades might also be assigned where appropriate. Next is for summative purposes, a panel of interviewers be designated to evaluate the student's portfolio based on the agreed set of criteria. Next, each portfolio entry needs to be assessed with reference to its specific goals. Next, self and peer assessment can also be used for formative evaluation, with students having to justify their grades with reference to the goals and to specific pages in the portfolio. So, diba, there are students nga ilang question nilang grado nga nung gamay. So, by this portfolio, like, it is compilation of the things that you have done throughout the semester or grading, for example. These are the activities that you have done. Then, through compiling, you could know kompleto ka ani, or you could know nga dili ka kompleto ani, or you could also know how many scores do you have. Is it mga activities and quizzes? Is it dako or gagmay? You are reflecting. It's like you are reflecting in this portfolio. It's you are reflecting the things that you have done throughout the semester, diba? So mo ni siya ang students and teacher must work together. These are the things the students and teacher must work together in order to achieve this particular things. And also, the teacher provides feedback on the portfolios. Di ba? Ibakabantay ka nga, ako nabantayan sa lani katong ipahimang may portfolio is that kana na siya mga feedbacks. What are mga comments nga gikan sa teacher? Is it positive, negative? For example, if positive, very good. You are creative. You have a wonderful portfolio like that. So, if you have feedbacks, what are the things that you must improve in creating portfolio? What are the things nga kanang appreciating your effort? So like that. So the teacher will give feedback or feedback, comments on your portfolio. So the teacher provides feedback on portfolio through write a letter about the portfolio which details strengths and weaknesses and generates a profile of a student's ability, which is then added to the portfolio. So kaya siya. So just like what I have said, the teacher will give comments or feedbacks about your strengths. Kaya siya, strengths is about how good you are, how good your portfolio na imong gibuhat, how good you are in creating those portfolio, katong mga designs nimo, ang yan, how creative it is. Then the weaknesses. So, ang weaknesses, i-comment dito ang mga weaknesses. Unsa may mga weaknesses. So, for example, is, dili siya organized. So, mo na siya ang weaknesses nga, i-comment sa imong teacher. And another one is that, dili siya kompleto. Dili siya effort, like, sakit pa na. Like, talagang mga weaknesses nga makita mismo sa teacher sa imong portfolio, like katag siya, or like I said, or dili siya organized, not clean, like dagan siya design pero dili siya clean. Like lang iba na nasobraan sa design, yung mura nimong fiesta, dili kana portfolio. Fiesta nga dagan kay mga sabit-sabit sa imong portfolio. So you must, just like what I have said, you must be appropriate in selecting what are the best designs that are suitable to your portfolio. So next is the teacher will give feedback about the strengths and weaknesses of the student's portfolio. It can generate a profile of a student's ability, which is then added to the portfolio. So okay, so next one, the second one, prepare certificates which comment on the portfolio strengths and suggest future goals. So if the teacher will give the feedback of strengths and weaknesses, there is a suggestion that you must be improved, di ba? Dili man ingan nga sa mo siya dapat buhaton. Kung nag-comment ang teacher sa strengths and weaknesses, you must also give a suggestion. And this suggestion is truly about the weakness of the portfolio nga imong gi-submit, di ba? So kaya yung suggestion is all about it could be a quote nga yes, it could be a quote nga gibutangan og kanang quote siya, then after that quote is translated siya into nakarang na-suggest sa gi-message nimo sa imong students, like so mo to siya. These are the things that the teacher provides in feedback on the portfolios. Write a letter, or you could prepare certificates in feedbacking. In having feedback of the portfolio of your students. So that's it. So that are the teacher that must. So these are the things that the teacher must must be must not be forget in feedbacking a portfolio. Okay, we are down to our last topic, or ikapat nga topic, which is implications of portfolios on some elements of social sciences. So what are these? First, curriculum. Next, or the second one, instruction. Third, assessment. So how would this imply the portfolios, how this imply portfolios on some of the elements of social studies? So first, the curriculum. So what is this curriculum all about? So how well this works depends on, or how much a curriculum is developed to the test. So unsa man siya about? So some people believe that using portfolios will enable teachers to broaden their curriculum to include areas they traditionally could not assess with standardized testing. How will this works depends on how much. So how will this works depends on how much. So this depends on how much a curriculum is developed to the test. In other words, how much curriculum is geared towards achieving high test scores rather than learning for learners' sake. So next one, instruction. So portfolio assessment appears to complement a teacher's use of instructional strategies centered around teamwork, projects, and applied learning. So this means that portfolios are also compatible with more individualized instruction, as well as strategies focused on different learning styles. So kani siya is talks about the instruction. It is a kind of individualized instruction, which is student centered. Diba? Ang portfolio is a student centered, which the student will independently compile their activities, their quizzes, compile different things through the use of portfolio, diba? So it is a self-centered, which the student could also learn from this kind of method. So the third one is assessment. So a portfolio can be used as an assessment tool. How? So external assessors, employers, evaluates panel, and so on can benefit from them. Teachers can also utilize them to judge student performance. Plus, students can use their own portfolios for self-assessment and reflection. That is the main point here. So kani siya is, diba, assessment. It is used to it is used by the teacher to assess students' performances. For example, through this semester, mo na siya ang performance of students. Is it in the best track, or it is in the lower track, diba? They could say through this compilation of activities, diba? Examples of activities, it is the student complete siya siyang activities, and it is perfect ba siya? So kaya siya, it could assess the teacher. It is a tool for assessing students' performances. So kaya siya ginagamit niya sa teacher pod. So kaya siyang portfolio is very important po for self-assessment or self-reflection. For example, unsa man nga unsa man yung pagibaw nga ma-reflect ang portfolio. How did portfolio how did portfolio kanang na-reflect sa imuha sa student? So how does the portfolio na-reflect sa student? So for me, katong nagbuhat may portfolio na naka-reflect siya sa ako nga pag-compile nako, mo din ako ang performances, mo din akong performance kali throughout this semester. Mo din siya, di ba? Ni-compile nimo, maka-compile kag quizzes. Yung quizzes, nalidi akong score ato pag niaging quiz. Compile kag this paper. So kali siya, nalidi akong score sa kuan naninguha tadi ko, or pwede ka makayon, wala dadi ko naninguha ani nga parte. So kali next is kanang activities. So kali activities is that as you compile different activities, makaingon ka, kan siya nag-effort jud ani, kabaw jud kun dako akong score ani, kay nag-effort ko sa kanang dagko yung score, because you know that you kanang nag-effort ka ana sa pagbuhat sa imong mga activities, di ba? Like ni-reflect sa imong kanang pagbuhat sa activities. Kanang reflect ng buhat sa activities, like na-reflect nimo ay imong gipambuhat throughout the semester through this portfolio. Like mo siyang, like this portfolio is like a recap bitaw sa imong performances throughout the grading or throughout kanang the semester. Throughout kani po siya is kanang reflection, makayon siguro reflection based from my experiences, because katong gabuhat ko ani is that kanang like kaya siya katong tingnan nga, like dili siya easy because there are many kanang mga aliporis na mga design. So makayon ko nga I did a good job in this kind of portfolio nga akong gibuhat, because nag-effort ko, and through this makayon ko nga I need to do like students man makayon man sila nga this is a kind of kanang like diba assessment pa ni sa teacher. So kaya siya is makaana pa mga teacher nga kaya siya estudyante is ga-effort. Kaya siya nga is estudyante is kanang naninguha ni siya. So that would be the implications of portfolios on some elements of social sciences. First is the curriculum, next is instruction, and the last one is assessment. Okay, so I am done, and we are done discussing about the 4 topics that I have reported. So what are the 4 topics that we've discussed earlier? So first, the stages in implementing portfolio assessment. The second one is that the types of portfolio. The third one is that assessing and evaluating portfolio assessment. The fourth, which is the last one, is that implications of portfolios on some elements of social sciences. So I hope you learned and you listened for my discussion. Yun na siyang gitatak sa inyong brain, sa inyong heart, and sa inyong soul. So again, this is Rea Ann A. Monton signing off. Bye-bye!